Alrighty, so with this image here, we are going to be doing a fairly straightforward edit. We're going to raw process this image twice, one for the light areas and one for the dark areas. And then we are going to combine the images together. And as we do that, we're going to look for anything that is in the background that is annoying, such as the background stands or the black background or little LED lights that show up. So the first thing we need to do is process this for the bright areas. And so you want to kind of play with color. So do you want to have it be more cool toned, or do you want it to have more warm toned, you know? So the left will make it more of a cool tone, and the right will make it more warm tone. You definitely want to have your two colors stand out, so I wouldn't go too warm, otherwise the red and the yellow starts to kind of blend together. So I think this kind of pink with yellow works, and then you can warm those up a little more, either going to the right or going to the left. I'm going to go a little bit to the right and make it a little more magenta with yellow. And okay, so then the exposure, I'm going to bring it up a little bit because what I'm looking for right now is just like the exposure in these designs. The background is definitely showing. I'm going to have to, blend this with another image to bring that background down. Let's see, highlights. Ooh, highlights are up. Let's see. Contrast I'm going to bring up a little bit, but then I'm going to watch for the edges. I'm going to bring the highlights down because that helps to kind of bring out some of the designs here in the center. And I'm going to bring these shadows down slightly, but I'm going to watch the edges of the design as I do that. And then the whites, if I bring the whites down, it will help to kind of tone out this kind of brightness here in the middle and here on the left and then here on the right. Let's bring some blacks down a little bit. Let's see, but not too much. Or actually, yeah, because we don't want to cause any noise. So let's bring that down a little bit. I'm starting to see less of the background, but I still see a little bit of areas that are going to need to be retouched later on. Or combining two images together, or I can fix some of that background in the background. Background in the background, yeah. Let's add a little bit of clarity because the clarity will help to really sharpen the image, but we don't really want to bring it up more than 30. And then add a little bit of vibrance, maybe 10, and then saturation, maybe 5. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and open this image. Alrighty, I need to save this image, save as, and I'm going to call it Lite Flute KYO Blade, so LFKB _ my first initial and last name, your first initial and your last name. We're going to click on save, and then we're going to go ahead and go back in and open up that same image, which was 316. There we go. Open that up. And this time I'm going to bring my exposure down. And as I do that, I'm going to look over here on the left. That was a little bit brighter, and a little bit over here on the right was a little bit bright. So any area that was bright, I'm going to bring that exposure down slightly. And I'm going to bring the blacks possibly down a little bit. Yeah. And shadows. Okay. Bring those down just a little bit. And contrast. I'm going to bring my contrast down a little bit. And then keep my clarity and vibrance and saturation and temperature and tint. All of that will be the same. I'm going to go ahead and open that image now. Okay. So what I want to do is I want to combine this image with some parts of this image here. So I'm going to do a Control A. Control A will select it all. Control C will copy it, and Control V will paste it. And so now I'm going to go ahead and add a layer mask, and I'm going to figure out what parts of the image I want to keep. Kind of go nice, kind of big brush here so I can blend this. Let's put like 1,000. Okay. And now I'm going to start blending this. I want this part here. I want more details in here, so I'm going to bring some of this brighter part from underneath. And this part here. And if it's too bright, I can always just kind of like, oop, that's too bright, right? So I can always undo this. I can bring my opacity down on my brush and just, you know, darken that a little bit, just to, maybe that's a little bit too dark there, and just kind of start to like carefully blend these two images together so that I have a nice balance of color. Okay. Alrighty, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to look and see if I see some areas of the background, which I do here. Okay, so it looks like I'm gonna have to kind of go back possibly on my layer mask to remove some of that, possibly if I make a smaller brush and just go in between here. I'm trying to see if I can get rid of that. Doesn't look like I'm going to be able to make that darker there. Let's see. So I have my lighter version underneath, my darker version on top. So what I want to do is I want to bring the darker version back here. So when I do not want to interrupt this pink design at all. Oh, edit, undo. Make sure I'm on my actual mask. I don't want to interrupt this pink design at all, so I need to see if this is helping to bring this. Okay, so it looks like I might have to do a little bit of retouching in between either that, or I make it even darker in there and then I added a third process layer that's really, really dark. That's quite possible. But what I want to do is, that's not a lot to retouch, so I'm thinking that I can kind of get rid of that background stand there. Thinking that I might just retouch this real quick. I can definitely retouch that part. Kind of get rid of that pink line there. Those LED lights, I can retouch those. And I can retouch this background stand back here. Okay, and then come down and look at that on the left corner, and then all right, so as I evaluate this, I definitely need to just kind of retouch this stuff right in here. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to merge these layers together because I'm happy with the color balance. Just back up one more time. Am I happy with the color balance? Yes. Okay, so now I'm just going to merge these layers. Okay, and now I'm going to duplicate that layer. I'm going to call it retouch. And I'm going to go in and I'm using the cloning tool. I'm going to get rid of these LED lights. And then I'm going to zoom in really close and get rid of those background stands that, not in the yellow part of the image, I can't get that. That's just, there's too much. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to just do it here and back in here a little bit. So let's put my opacity down on my cloning tool and let's take that out. As I do that, I'm being very careful that I don't get on my pink lines. Okay, so I can zoom in really close and just see that. It looks pretty good. Okay, and back out. Okay. Alrighty, final step is to add a nice black vignette to make sure everything is really solid black around my image. And go in with my brush, black over white. And just bring my design back again. And you're only keeping the vignette in the areas where there's no color. So it'll kind of look, the vignette will look like the shape of this. Okay, so I'm gonna take a little more of my vignette off here. Okay, there we go. And it is done. Make sure you do a file, save as, and save your final image.